Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. If you don't know who we are Millennial and Mom. I'm Mom. Millennial is out again due to allergies. I thought she would be back this week, but her voice got her sounding like Minnie Mouse. She got a little bit of laryngitis, but she's coming along, so okay, next week. She should be better next week. All right, so today we're going to talk about MAFS, or Married at First Sight, Season 14, Episode 13, Popping the Questions. And I'm a little bit surprised of how this episode went, honestly, because we didn't have just one expert, we had two. And the way that they talked with the couples and the things they were trying to get them to introduce to them or get them to say with their significant other. But this episode starts off with some quick scenes, and the most notable one is Olajuwon and Katina. They're shopping, and y'all know Katina doesn't really cook, right? Or does she cook at all? And Olajuwon's talking about, they need to have a chicken cook-off, a fried chicken cook-off, because, his family's recipes is worse out when it comes to chicken. I'm thinking, is that even a contest? She don't cook. She said she's a foodie. She goes out to eat. But you know what? If it gets showed, we'll see. And all right, Katina, I have a little bit of faith in you, but not really. Now, Lindsey and Mark are talking like they always do, and it's always a communication breakdown. Every time you see Lindsey and Mark, it's always about how he's making her feel, or how she's making him feel, or whatever the case may be. And honestly, it's getting old. In my opinion, it's getting old. Experts should have came in a long time ago with this couple, because every episode there is some kind of hoopla, or whatever you want to call it, drama going on with this couple about, do you want me to leave, Mark? Do you want me to stay? It's up to you. I don't feel like you deserve me. Just back and forth all the time. Like, he's got to be tired of it. Well, we know he's tired of it because he keeps saying that he is. She's got to be tired of it too, but I don't know, somewhere deep down, I think Lindsey likes that kind of thing. Even though later in the episode she says she doesn't feel validated, I think she likes that. Like, that makes her feel a little bit better, like to put you down without building you up kind of thing. But that's just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt, however you want to take it. All right, so now the couples meet with Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper individually. And we're going to start off with knowing Pastor Cal, okay? Cal says that he knows there's been a challenge with social media. And he tells her, although things are beneficial with social media, it can be beneficial, but also could be a source of hurt. And he's asking her, does she realize that the things that she's put out on the social media, if she's realized how it could hinder her relationship, okay? And Noi, she admits that it could cause some insecurities, but I don't think she's really soaking that in. I really don't, because just by the things that she has said to Steve along the way about the social media, and something that she even says later on when she meets up with Steve. So I don't know. I don't even know why they even came up, because Noi seemed like it's her way or the highway, which I find interesting, because I really thought that they were possibly the front runners for this season, but I don't know. It goes up and down with these couples. Some of them give you the vibe that it could maybe be us for decision day, and then once they get to talking every episode, because week to week, because I said that in the beginning, week to week is something different. And with her week to week is becoming a little bit more giving you a little side eye when it comes to Noi, at least from me. But one of the things she says, and what's something we've already known, is that she really wants Steve to have a job, because for her to feel secure, she needs to know where those finances are coming outside of her own finances. Because, based off her history, she said, she had mentioned before that her family was poor growing up, and that, they didn't have the best living arrangements, and everyone now works really hard and just doing what they have to do. And she feels that without seeing Steve with a 9-to-5, she really can't feel comfortable with that. And I understand what she's saying, but at the same time, I just find it hard to believe that Steve hasn't tried to give her a little bit of, comfort, showing that, okay, this is the reasons why I'm able to stay home, versus just telling her he could stay home based on the investments that he's taking. So I see what she's saying, but again, it's always how you present the message. And now Noe is actually starting to look like not just a my way, the highway, but she's starting to join the mean girl club. But again, just my opinion. You can let me know what you think in these comments. All right, so let's move on to Steve and Dr. Pepper. Steve starts off saying that Noe in her social media post, and he was saying that how he wanted Noe to have that off the table. Like, why would you bring our problems, our issues, what's going on at home, to social media? Again, I agree with that. Dr. Pepper also agrees with that. But Dr. Pepper is trying to let Steve know that even though that's not the right thing to do for Noe, like, what is it that Steve is doing to make Noe so uneasy? And again, Steve realizes and recognizes that it's the finance thing. And that, you know, she may not be as comfortable with him, even though he's saying it, you know, just like they've been discussing. And Dr. Pepper suggested that he should bring up questions to make her feel secure about, like, you know, what would it take, you know, if we worked out our issues. It wasn't me getting a job. He's at work around there pretty much. I mean, for them, they really don't have any issues other than that, the job and the finances thing, because I'm telling you, Noe is like, you know, you got to bring home a little something on a check, a direct deposit, to make me comfortable. But you know what? Steve goes on to say with Dr. Pepper that, you know, that could be something that hinders their relationship, because he wants to be with someone that wants to be with him, that desires to be with him, not something that, or someone that wants to be with him just because of companionship. And I understand what he was saying with that, but again, Noe's not really trying to hear that. Okay, so then after they meet up with the counselors, Steve and Noe are back at home, and Steve brings up the social media thing. Like, yeah, I talked to Dr. Pepper about it. And Noe's like, social media? Like, what do you mean? And right there, I was like, see there, Noe, you're playing games. You know exactly what he means, because it came up with Pastor Cal, and it came up with you and Steve in previous conversations and previous episodes. But then, you know, she came around to it. She's like, well, you know, it's my social media, and I told Pastor Cal pretty much what she wanted him to know, or what she felt like he should know, and she's telling Steve what he needs to know. At the end of the day, this is her social media, and she's gonna do what it is that she wants to do. Now that right there, if I was Steve, would have gave me pause, because then it was like, okay, so you just saying things just to be saying things, and Steve's fears and frustration, not necessarily Noe's fears and frustration, because it's based off of finance, when it's clear that Steve has finances, are, okay, so now I can't say anything to you because I don't know who you're gonna run off and tell. And social media, you know, is a big thing, could take off like wildfire, and Steve don't want that. And to me, Noe, it's not really helping her cause with that. But then later on again in the evening, we see, or maybe it's the next day, we see Steve sitting down in front of a laptop computer, and they go over finances and tasks and what they should split and things like that, because he's really trying to make Noe comfortable. I have yet to hear Noe try to do something to make Steve comfortable. It's all about, what can you do for me, because you're not working, and since you're not working, you need to pretty much do what I ask. Now, when I say it how I say it, pretty much I say jump, you say how high. That's how it comes across to me. All right, so they're talking about, you know, the bills, and from the bills to diaper duty. And she's like, well, I don't know if this is in your timeline, but I want to have kids within next year. And Steve wasn't opposed to having kids within the next year. And I think, okay, if you want to do that, something else needs to change. Like, Noe needs to be a little bit more flexible, because again, to me, it's all about what she wants, how she sees her future. It's not as how we see our future, supposedly, or whatever. Moving on to Katina and Olajuwon. Katina meets with Pastor Cal, and of course, what comes up, the dating app. Okay, she explains how she deleted the app. We know how it goes. She deleted the app, but she says that, you know, the login was still there, but she wasn't still a member, whatever. And she says she got upset, or Olajuwon got upset, they both did, about how he approached her having the app on the phone. You know, she was mentioning that you know, how he talks to her, the tone, stuff like that. I mean, We know that. If you've been watching, we know that. We know how Olajuwon talks to her, okay? And Cal says, there's a reason why people do the things that they do. He says that Olajuwon has gone through hard times. Now, see, that's the first time that I have heard that Olajuwon has gone through hard times. We've heard that Lindsey previously has gone through hard times, and Noy has gone through hard times, and Michael. But I haven't heard that from Olajuwon. If you guys have, let me know, because I'm trying to figure out from what. Because, it was Olajuwon / Isaac. Clearly, he was having a party boy good time, good vibes. So I'm not sure what hard times he's actually gone through. All right. So then Cal asks, has there been any intimacy? And she says, no, they haven't had any intimacy like that. But, he hits her on her butt and he kissed her on her neck. So, she feels like they're working up to it. And she says she doesn't want to be a blip, a dizzy, what I'm saying? And Cal's like, what's that? She's like, just having sex just for the point of having sex, like being dizzy about it. And then the next day you're like, I really don't like this person. Okay, I get that. But like Cal was saying, you're married now. So really you have to work through those things, those issues to get to that point. There's a reason why you guys aren't going to the next level. And he asked her if she had any doubts about things. And she said, yes. And Katina's like, I'm the type of person where nothing lasts forever. And I think that's very telling because maybe in her previous relationships, and she's even mentioned that she's been in abusive relationships before. And honestly, I hate to say it, but I think she might be in a possible verbal abusive relationship with Olajuwon, allegedly, just based off his tone and how he responds to things. And I don't know, Katina, I think she has 1 foot in, 1 foot out. She wants it to work, but she's not really sure. And she doesn't want to relive the things possibly that she's relived before in this particular relationship. Okay, so let's move on to Olajuwon and Dr. Pepper. She says, so I'm trying to find out what would make you say yes on decision day. And Ella says, well, him and Katina are doing well and they care for each other. And then she asks, well, what improvements does he see? And here go Olajuwon. He's like, you know what? I saw that dating app. Now you could just see and feel through the TV the tension that he has or had with that dating app, because you could just see him hitting levels 0, 1, 2 to 10, right? And he's talking about it, and he's saying how, says that app should have been gone before she was married. I can see where he's going with that, and the thing with that for me is, again, it's how you present your message. You can't just always be like, yeah, in your face, yeah. Who's going to keep listening to that? I'm sure there's someone who will, because maybe they feel like this is all they have or whatever. But again, it comes down to marrying a stranger. You're trying to get to know each other. And starting off on a certain level, a certain tone, a certain whatever, is not going to make you open up or be more vulnerable to somebody. Because that's one thing that Olajuwon keeps saying. He wants her to be vulnerable. He wants her to be open. He wants her to cook. He wants her to clean, all this other stuff, because he claims he's already doing that. But to me, Olajuwon, are you really being vulnerable with Katina? Are you really being as open as you say? Are you being like in your face? Because when he's talking to Pastor Cal, when he's talking to Dr. Pepper, Dr. Pepper saying, I've noticed your tone and stuff like that, and I've heard things about what's going on, and I've heard these other different things. And Olajuwon's like, you know what? It's not about a he say, she say. Like trying to turn the table, like talking to her like he's on I don't know how would I say it, like an expert equal level. And you're not on an expert equal level, and I don't know, he just didn't really take all that well. In my opinion, he just didn't take it well. He was already defensive when they got to talking anyways. And I do think, again, that Olajuwon is frustrated on many levels that we see on camera, and definitely levels we haven't seen on camera for sure. So I'm just going to move past that anyways. All right, so now let's move on to Mark and Lindsey. So Mark is talking to Pastor Cal, and before they get to talking, we see the majority of times that Mark and Lindsey are into it. I mean, from the living room, from the bowling alley, all this stuff. Like, we don't have to relive all the times they've been into it, because guess what? They've been into it every week, starting on the ride to the honeymoon, or to the honeymoon destination. So we already know it's about drama, miscommunication with Mark the Shark and Lindsey. All right, so Kels tells Mark that people treat you how you let them treat you. And honestly, that comment could have been made for all these couples this season. Like, people treat you how you want them to treat you, because they've all had communication issues. And a few of them had communications, towards the very end. Well, not the end, towards leading up to this episode. But one thing that Pastor Cal said, like, what do you think the basis of the communication issues are? And then Mark mentioned how his mom and dad used to always argue and go back and forth, stuff like that. And how his mom always showed him unconditional love. And I'm thinking, okay, so if you saw your mom and dad argue all the time, but yet you felt unconditional love from your mom during those times, or even when they were going through the ups and downs, and now how his mom suffers from depression. There's all kind of things that circle around his mom, which is interesting because things seem to circle around Lindsey's mom too. But how his dad, as time went on in conversation or arguments with his mom, how his dad just stopped saying anything, like he stopped fighting back. And Pastor Cal said, do you think you're turning into your dad? And that's when Mark got emotional, because he was like, no one asked me that before. And you know what? I could see, now that Mark mentioned that, and just the dynamic of his mom and dad's relationship, and where his mom is now. You know, she's in a facility dealing with whatever issues, and Mark being an only child and having to see all that. But then at the same time, Mark says he just felt nothing but unconditional love in those times, in those situations, and just in general. I could see maybe how Mark could feel like his dad, like, maybe not being heard, or just didn't want to fight anymore about anything and just like shut down. So I get that. So, you know, Mark carries a lot of issues from his childhood too. And Pastor Cal says, just remember, Mark, that Lindsey is not your mom. And Mark was very emotional. He really was. And Mark says, you know, he wants things to be healthy. So I think that Mark is just, again, recollecting of things that he wants to have in his relationship, not just with Lindsey, but just in general, and just in himself, and just with any relationship. He wants it to be healthy, just based off of the things he's seen growing up as a child. All right, so now as Lindsey meets with Dr. Pepper, Dr. Pepper said, well, before I say that, one thing I noticed Dr. Pepper, with all the people that she talked to individually, she had a drink of some sort, whether it be coffee, tea, or maybe an adult beverage. I thought that was interesting that she did that. She just made herself real comfortable talking to these couples as individuals. And okay, I'm here for it. Do what you do. But one thing that Dr. Pepper got Lindsey to admit was the insecurities that she had in her relationship. Okay, and Lindsey broke down crying as usual, but to me it was a different kind of cry, because Lindsey had to go inside, and also to remember the times when she said she was always berating or belittled or beaten down, whatever case may be, she said, by her mom growing up. And so Lindsey, like Mark, carries something within them when it comes to their moms, but the difference is Lindsey didn't feel any love from her mom, because they're even still distant to this day, because even in the beginning of this episode, she was saying how her and her mom don't talk and stuff like that. So it was probably pretty rough in there for a while, and still going on. But Lindsey said that she's someone who loves you from the jump. Like, I'm gonna give you all my love, and if you lose it, you lose it. If you have it, you have it. And Dr. Pepper was like, you know, you shouldn't want to forecast things. Like, and Lindsey's like, what do you mean? Like, don't forecast anything like that, especially love, because things go up and down. You know, life goes up and down. You can't forecast what someone else is going to do, or even what you're going to do, or even how people react to things. So she's trying to let Lindsey know, you know, pretty much take things day by day in a relationship and try to build the small things, build the little things. And she said that, she says anger to Lindsey, anger is not your friend, you know, and Mark is not the source of your anger. You have to get to the root of why you're angry, and tap into your sadness. Let the sadness, come out and maybe respond, and not the anger respond, because it's really, bottom line for me, what I got from that is like, anger is a different Lindsey than a sadness is a different Lindsey, because a sadness can, seem like she could open up more, versus anger where she says anything that's on her mind, on her tongue, just she says it and it is what it is. And then, at the end, she still expects you to keep doing what you do. Like, I gave you this love, but how come you can't give it back to me? Like, how can I give it back to you? You're always like in my face, in my face, in my face, in my face. Just saying. So, Dr. Pepper also says, she should come from a place of softening. And we actually heard that before. If you watch Married at First Sight for a while, that was also given to another couple, like, be a soft place to lay. And that's definitely something that Lindsey can try out in Olajuwon and a couple other people as well. But that's neither here nor there. Now let's move to Michael and Jasmina. So when Michael met with Pastor Cal, he says that it's been a roller coaster ride, and there has been, and there's still a lot of work to do. And I agree. I just agree with Michael and Jasmina still, even after this meeting. He says he realizes he was doing things out of obligation, like at nighttime, they would do goodnight kisses, and he just realized, we're just doing it just to be doing it, and I wasn't necessarily doing it because I'm your husband and I'm being open to you. I was just doing it because I'm your husband, and at the same time, he says that he has feelings for her. And Pastor Cal says, well, what would happen if she reached over and touched you? And he's like, I don't know, probably like step back or something. And Pastor Cal was like, you really, again, it's about the small things. And honestly, I think with the couples, even though they broke it down to them all individually, I do think it's about the small things, because the majority of these couples, well, not majority, now all of the couples are, in my opinion, struggling with communication and really intimacy with one another, to know what each other needs or each other wants or each other desires. And Michael, I could tell he's trying to open up. He's trying to be here for the process, but I think he's afraid of Jasmina and her responses, because again, it seems like my way or the highway with Jasmina at times, and I think he's afraid to really open up, but he wants to. He wants that intimacy with her, and he says that he's working on it. And Pastor Cal suggests that maybe he should be the husband and like open up and be the husband, like maybe reach out and touch her hand, or things like that when it comes to intimacy. All right. So Jasmina, when she speaks with Dr. Pepper, she says that she feels good, and what worries her, because Dr. Pepper asked, what worries you? And she's saying that she doesn't really know enough about Michael and his past, and she doesn't feel like he's given her enough support. And right now, she doesn't really have that feeling for him. Like, she's not really closed off. I think that you are, honestly. What we're seeing on TV, you're closed off. She doesn't have feelings for him, in that way like she would. She says she's naturally a sexual person, and she's not opposed to, eventually have things lead up to it. But right now, she just doesn't see it. And she says that she's also the type of person who is more trusting. She gives trust to people, but she finds it hard to believe that Michael has to have someone earn his trust. And I'm thinking, well, they should earn your trust. You don't necessarily, in my opinion, just give your trust to anybody, because then you'll be disappointed, because people may take that for granted, I don't know. Everyone's different when it comes to that. But Jasmina says, like I said, she's not opposed to any intimacy, but she has to work up to it, and she has a trust issue. And I just think that with Michael, I think her trust issue still stems from conversations she had way back at the wedding, and the day after the wedding, speaking to his sisters about how he's, could be closed off. So I think she's still kind of holding on to that, in my opinion. And then Dr. Pepper suggests that maybe when they're having conversations at night, or just even in general, maybe like hold hands while they have conversation, and that can increase the intimacy too. Okay, so now, you know what? Let's talk about Lindsey and Mark in the evening time after they meet up, and or after they meet up from the experts. And I thought it was interesting that Mark mentioned to Lindsey about the pain that he had about his mom and dad. Like, now, see, Mark opened up about those things, and Lindsey said that she was happy that he did, and Mark was emotional, and Lindsey's like, I don't want to see him in any bit of in any pain, and we could work through the mud and stuff like that. And again, they both, in my opinion, have PTSD from their childhoods based off their mother and stuff like that. And I don't know. They both seem like they're hopeful when it comes to their relationship, but again, that communication issue is just so far off the line to me. We'll have to see if it works out, but I don't think so, but that's just me. All right, so now all the couples decide to meet up to play volleyball. And Noe's not there because she said she woke up with a headache. She's not feeling good, so she's not going. And she was like, oh, I feel strange to send off my husband to somewhere without me. I'm thinking, girl, this is a break for you because you really don't want to hang out with Steve like that anyways. That's not normally how you do things, but however you want to say it. All right. So they're playing basketball, they're playing volleyball, they're having a good time, but here's the twist. Pastor Cal and Dr. Pepper are watching and listening to see how they're interacting as couples and how they're interacting as individuals. And it gets real interesting. And when they finish playing, they all sit down and have conversations, and they talk about, how things are, of course, as always, how things are going and how was their meetups with the experts. And Michael jumps in and says, going good. The conversation between him and Jasmina are getting better. Mark starts to talk about how things are going, and then guess what? Lindsey cuts him off, and Mark's in there like, through the whole conversation. And Lindsey's just talking about stuff like, oh, look, there's something like, oh, there's a ball up there. I wish I could get it down, or a bird, or something she says off the wall. She's always deflecting conversation. And as soon as I thought that, in my mind, here go Pastor Cal saying the same exact thing. Like, she tries to divert conversations from real conversations. And that's Lindsey's thing. And in this moment, her and Mark weren't arguing, so I'm like, why the deflection now, Lindsey? I mean, in every group setting, y'all talk about what's going on, and she just, to me, it's an attention-seeking thing. I could be wrong, but it is. But, well, it is to me. But then she goes on to say how, they're communicating well, and this and that, and he's opening up, and how just the usual things. And then she's like reaching her arm over, her hand over to touch Mark, and Mark's still like, and I know Mark is thinking in my mind, like, here she goes again. Now, didn't we just have this conversation like yesterday or whatever it was? Didn't we just have this conversation, Lindsey? And here you go. I think that's what, Mark can't get past that. Mark just cannot get past Lindsey cutting him off and then tries to make it seem like, oh, everything's okay. That's not Mark's love language. He is not feeling that. And Lindsey, she can't see it because, just leave it at that. Lindsey can't see it. So now Olajuwon is talking about how he met with Dr. Pepper, and he was like, oh yeah, I met with Dr. Pepper, and it was just a complete waste of time. And I told her if she's gonna come at me with conversation, like pretty much she need to have all her facts straight, and I don't do he say and she say. Y'all know I don't do things like that, and you just can't come at me. That's what he was getting at. Next thing you know, walks out Cal and Pepper, and everybody's like, whoa. And Olajuwon's looking like, like, uh-oh, kind of like either uh-oh or like, what they gonna say? Because see, he was talking like big stuff before they came out, even though it was like semi-true, but he was talking about like how he ran the show pretty much. And then Dr. Pepper went over and talked to all the couples. Well, Cal did too, and she was like, yeah, we just want to see how the marriage was going and how everyone was getting along. And then she had mentioned to Olajuwon, like, regardless of the things that you're saying, regardless, we want to make sure that you all are good and what's going on. And, you know, we want you to know like how it could look to certain people and things like that. And in confession, Olajuwon was like, I really don't care how it looks. This is my marriage. This is Katina's marriage. I don't care what America thinks. And you know, you shouldn't care what America thinks, because clearly you don't, because clearly you don't know what you're saying and how it looks and how it relays on TV, because honestly, it doesn't make you look good, in my opinion. Of course, it's not making it look good for our taste, but just as a person, the character issue is what it's about. And then at the end of that, Pepper was like, you know, as long as you two are happy, that's what matters. Also, Dr. Pepper talked to Michael and Jasmina about how did it feel when Michael came back and talked about their conversation. And Jasmina said that, you know, she's being vulnerable and opening up. And she says, like, I really don't feel anything for him right now. And Dr. Pepper said, you know, maybe you can phrase it by saying, like, I don't feel it yet. And I think I don't feel it yet, putting yet in there, is a little bit better. It makes it feel like, again, it's a softer place to land. Like, you know, not yet, but it could be possibly, instead of I don't feel like, it may never. So I get why she said that and why she did that. And honestly, Lindsey and Mark, the same. You know, they mentioned how, you know, how Lindsey was trying to reach out and give him some type of affection to bring him down, calm him down, whatever. And Mark sees it, but at the same time, I think Mark could possibly be over it. You know, he needs time to adjust. I mean, they all, in my opinion, need more counseling individually anyways, if they're willing to accept it, to move forward in this relationship or any relationship that they're in. But that was pretty much all the episode. I'm not going to keep you. I kept you long enough. So looking forward to next week's episode. Now that seems like it's going to be pretty good. And we'll see if Noi comes on this trip and who could stay together this time without any real drama. But I don't know. I don't know if any couple can do it, but we'll see. All right, you guys. Well, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to leave your comments down below, because we love reading them and respond to you all too. So, all right. Well, again, thank you all for watching. And as always, live simply, be grateful.